we have different elements that Triple Win offers as far as like, kind of your makers, professions and things like that. And so, and as we kind of were filling a lot of our tenant spots, I just kept getting woodworkers. Just woodworkers. We have like 5 woodworkers.
Okay.
And I love me a good woodworker, but we weren't getting other makers. So it was like ceramics, it was like t-shirt making and embroidery were kind of our 3 that we had equipment for. So, our kind of one of our selling points is like, come be a tenant here. You pay your rent. It's all bills paid. We give you a spot to do whatever you're doing.
Yeah.
You may get an office, you may not, depends on how much you're paying, but we'll get you equipment, so if you need, screen printing equipment, or if you need a specific type of deal and you're trying to expand your business, I mean, if you sign a lease, like we'll buy the equipment for you. We own the equipment, but you can use it every day, and we'll maintenance it and repair it and all that stuff. And so it just like always blew my mind that I couldn't find.
Bro, I'm sorry.
Another ceramics person. We had one, and she was our first pottery tenant, ceramics tenant, and so we bought the kiln because she, they signed a 1-year lease, and so I said, okay, if you sign a 1 year, we'll buy this industrial kiln, something that can fire up more
pieces. It's a nice kiln.
Yeah, and so we found one. Her husband and a friend of mine, they drove down to Houston and went and picked it up and brought it back, and then, 2 months later, she tells me her husband had a job transfer to North Carolina, and it was like, oh, geez, okay, so now she's not here anymore.
And you're already 3.
And now I got this kiln, and I got a space, and I thought, oh, I'll find someone. Like, there's so many people that do ceramics, and like, my mom growing up, she painted, so she would paint plates and stuff like that. So mainly at Christmas time, so she just did like seasonal stuff. And so as I got older, like our house just always became like just plates everywhere,
like ceramic plates that she put the glaze on.
Yeah. And then she would have to go fire them up somewhere. And there was, I grew up in Portland, Oregon, is where I'm from.
Okay.
And in Portland, there was like one place that her name's Jan. I still remember Jan, and Jan's Ceramics. And so that's the only place where you could like rent kiln space, and she'd fire it up for you. She was, I'll say this, Jan, if you're still alive, forgive me. I don't know if she's even alive anymore, but crotchety old woman and just so mean. And my mom just like sometimes she'd be in tears, Jan was just so rough and gruff, but the only lady that did it, and she was really good at it too. So my mom's had to keep going there. So it's like, now that I'm in this, now fast forward to now, it's like I get the value of a kiln and being able to fire things up and do it well. And there's nobody in Waco that really does that outside of
there's not.
Maker's Edge used to. But we had some people that have been coming to us just asking how much does a kiln fee cost, because I drive into Dallas or whatever to get my stuff fired up. So that's kind of so it just was like mind blowing to me. I could never find a tenant, and then we found a great person recently. Her name's LT, and so she's,
LT. Now, she's a Wacoan? She's here?
She's here, yeah. But you did some awesome videos that I think Rachel and Natalie shared with Rachel.
I was hoping.
Because we're kind of everyone's staring at each other, like, who can fire this thing and do it well? And I think, you have like Natalie Ward, who does a great job, and she knows how to work it. But I think when it came to like anyone else's pottery besides the students, she was like, I'm not touching that. Like, I don't want to be responsible, So it was helpful. So shout out to you, MJ. Made some really good videos.
Thanks.
That I think people have watched them, and I think they've understood at least how to click the buttons.
It's amazing the market there is for niche expertise.
Yeah.
It's like you go deep on something that's technical, and it's like, you got an audience out there.
It's crazy. It is.
Well, that's fun. So you got someone now. I'm so sorry about that.
It was rough, man. Yeah. And I won't get into it, but she was a friend. She was a friend. And after that experience, it just it was not good.
Oh, that's
it's not a good exit there. But
I'm sorry, I wasn't there. My mom is our customer service, so if you ever get on the website, it's always my mom because I just stink at it.
Yeah.
But she's super extroverted and
good. Good.
So she's the one that Sharon reached out to, and my mom told me about it, and then we connected. But Sorry, I didn't get your message, man.
No.
I would have been very tempted because this is like a little piece of heaven.
Well, and I was just trying to glean any, like, I was like, if you weren't interested, do you know anybody or whatever?
Yeah.
And I finally came across someone. I made like a Facebook post, and then somebody, I don't even know who they are or where they live, messaged me privately and said, "Hey, this is so cool." Oh, they didn't live here, because the message was like, "This is amazing. If you were in, Austin, Texas, or wherever they were, I would be here in 2 seconds. I'd be your tenant. But have you ever, are you a part of like the Texas Potters group of Facebook or whatever?" And I was like, never heard of it. And so then I posted there, and then I started getting some good traction.
I bet.
And then that's where LT ended up finding me. And
okay, I got to meet LT.
Yeah, she's great. Used to be a teacher, worked a lot with special needs kiddos, and just like an amazing individual. Like she's in there cleaning our space sometimes. I'm like, LT, stop! Like that's not not responsibility. Not your responsibility. But she's really cool. Okay. And so she's been learning and really good on the wheel. But just learning the kiln, I think, is everybody's like, is this cone 4 or cone 6? Is this is it a glaze or is it a bisque? Like all these things. And they're half the time they're looking at me, and I'm like, I don't have the answers, guys. Like you got to YouTube it or something. So, but anyway, yeah,
super cool.
It's been cool.
So tell me background. Like how did this? Because I did Maker's Edge in 2018. That's where I learned 3D printing. That's where I got my first laser etching experience. Yeah. And then I bought a printer, and I didn't go back to Rick. I saw Rick in there.
Yeah. You saw Rick. You said hi. Yeah.
So when did this happen? And
so I guess there's kind of two pathways. I'll kind of bring in Maker's Edge. Well, I guess I'll start there. So I had went to Baylor, did my undergrad, did grad school there.
What year were you?
My undergrad was 2010 is when I graduated, and then 2013 was my master's. So after that, went back home to Portland, wanted to work for the Portland Trailblazers. I just wanted to get into pro sports or, be an agent or whatever, something. So salesy or whatever.
Okay.
Life happens. That ended up not being the pathway, and it found myself back in Waco. My best friend and I opened up the Waco escape rooms. So that was in 2015.
Okay.
So did that venture, and then through that we were building out a new escape room, and this was in 2016, I think, early 2016.
Okay.
And escape rooms were very, very new back then. There weren't that many. I think we were like the 6th one to open in Texas, and so it just was a very new industry. So if you ever wanted to innovate or try something new, you kind of had to build it all yourself. And so we were developing kind of like those mag locks. So like if I put my drink here, nothing happens. But then if I put it here, it triggers an opening on a box across the room. And then you go get the key and whatever.
Oh, cool.
So, but I had no idea how to make one. And I Googled like something about like, how do I make a box? I don't know. I don't even know what I Googled. Maker's Edge popped up. And so, okay. So I drive over there and met Rick, and I think they had just opened. I don't think they had been open very long, maybe a year or something like that, 2015, 2016. Yeah. And I said, Rick, like, this is my, I want to do this. Do you know of anybody that can help me? And Rick's like, I can do it. I'm an engineer by trade. Like, this seems really fun. Like, let me try. I was like, you got me, man. Let's do it. So I bought a membership. Rick was like doing that as like a commission thing for him. So he was like doing that on his own. I wasn't doing it. But then I was like, well, I have this membership. So I like made some seating for our lobby. I was like, I made a good wooden bench, MJ. Okay. It was an awesome wooden bench. So I did some of that there and took a woodworking class and don't remember any of it, but I made some benches. So, but then Rick built this thing for me, and it had tons of wires. It cost like $800. But it worked. It did what it was supposed to do. And so ever since then, like Rick's always been, he's in my phone still. It's like, it's Rick Awesome Sell. Cause I was like, this dude is an awesome individual. And I would throw random stuff at him and he would try to make it and things like that. The industry since has caught up, and I can buy a box like that from like Indonesia now for, $19 and they work really well. But Rick was ahead of his time.
He is ahead of his time.
So
I remember being back, and I was in our church, like the little community space, and I seeing a thing on the wall. It said Rick Pordon, because I think he goes to our church. And it was Maker's Edge and all Makerspace. I was like, get out of town. We got one. Yeah. That's so awesome.
Really cool. Yeah, it was always an awesome space. So
who was your business partner? You said you started an escape room with.
Yeah, his name's Jared.
Okay.
Dowenhauer.
Okay.
He went to Baylor with me.
Okay.
That's where we met. And
Okay.
him and his wife live in Nashville now, or outside of Nashville. But,
Okay.
We both did our masters. Mine was in sports management. His was in higher ed. And so
Okay.
when we both graduated, he took a job up at Union University up in Jackson, Tennessee. And so that's where he was a part of like a student activities. His job was like VP of student activities or something.
Okay.
So they let him come up with kind of crazy things to do with students, and one of them was he wanted to do these escape rooms because he had heard of them. And so they did like 4 rooms on campus, and his staff built some rooms, and he built. And Jared's like a puzzle guy. Like he is like,
Okay.
in high school was like on the quiz bowl team, and Jared just like retains information really well, and he just loves board games, and so he's very puzzle oriented already.
Okay.
Did the rooms. Met up with another guy. They did it for 2 weekends up there at the college, and it went really well. And so he had another guy that worked there too at Union. Said, "Hey, like let's try to do this as a business. Like let's open them up in Jackson, the town." And Jackson's a small town. It's like similar to Waco in some ways. It's like hour and a half to Nashville, hour and a half to Memphis. Right in the middle of like these 2 bigger cities. But it's a college town, faith-based university.
Okay.
And so a lot of similarities to Waco in that way. But yeah, it went really well, and then that's when, about 4 or 5 months after that, Jared said, "Hey, move back to Waco and let's open them up and do it." So, but yeah, so then time went on. Rick built the thing for us, and that was great. And then I just started doing other things, starting other ventures here in town and startups and investing and things like that. And
I want to hear that list too, because I was kind of shocked when I heard, "Oh my gosh, he was behind that and that."
It used
and
to
that.
be a lot. It used to be a lot. It's trimmed way down now, but yeah, I mean, Waco Escape Rooms was the first venture.
Okay.
And then I opened another escape room in San Marcos, Texas, just kind of south of Austin. So did that down there. Then I'm trying to remember the order. Then there was another escape room up in Rockwall, that's northeast Dallas.
Yeah.
Did that. And then Moore, Oklahoma was after that, escape room in Moore. So there's basically 4 escape rooms at that point, and I thought, oh yeah, like I said, this is super easy. Like I don't know why people don't just open 20 locations all over the country.
And they're pretty profitable.
Yeah. At that time, you didn't have to put a lot in.
Okay. Because it was a novelty.
Yeah. You go to Salvation Army and you could grab stuff and whatever. And so, and fun activities, you kind of target certain towns or certain places that, family friendly. It wasn't a college thing. Like we thought it'd be a college deal. College students are going to come play.
Okay.
And that couldn't have been further from the truth.
Really? It's families.
Like family.
Birthday
oriented.
parties.
Oh yeah. That's where the bread and butter was, and still kind of is. But, so yeah, I had done those 4 ventures and wasn't like the main owner of the Rockwall or Moore, but was, here's the blueprint guys and let's open these. So we're doing that. And then a friend of mine back here in Waco, we had started a networking deal called 1 Million Cups. It's a national, it's a nonprofit. It happens every Wednesday at 9 a.m. everywhere.
Robbie Hetland, do you know Robbie Hetland?
I don't know if I know Robbie.
I think he's in one of the. I think that's the same thing.
Okay.
He's in one of the groups.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, they're really popular. The whole focus is it's like there's an entrepreneur that comes and presents their business. They talk for about 30, 45 minutes, and then opens up for Q&A for the audience. And then that's it. So it's a very structured networking event, which I loved. I hated the ones where you just walk in and mingle for I get my hands are getting sweaty just thinking about them. I can't stand them, and I love to talk to people. I did not like that. It just was awful. But this, I was like, oh, this is really good. So my friend Jake Cockrell and a couple other of us did it, but Jake and I were in the back, and we always would hear people present their business, and then we'd always have ideas for other things. It was just like a terrible. It'd be like if you have a gambling addiction and you don't work at a casino, it's like that's probably not it. So we're in the back listening to all these business ideas, and Waco Wine Tours, his name's Joey, he owns Valley Mills Vineyard, and he was presenting about his new kind of side business where he was going to take people around and tour them to different vineyards in Waco and go downtown wine shops and stuff. And I thought that was cool, and Waco Tours was a thing as well. And so Jake was like, man, I wonder if there's any other tour thing, and I said, I don't know, man. So he's Googling stuff and he shows me these pedal bikes.
Yeah.
And he's like, these are in Fredericksburg. People get on the bike. It holds 14 to 16 people. It's typically like they'll go to different bars and stuff, but they're, it's a fun downtown nightlife kind of experience. And, and I'm thinking, okay. And I'm thinking, well, if this is going to go off well, you have to have like a really entertaining tour driver,
Right.
That was just the way I looked at it. And we had a guy working for us at the escape room that was like, if anybody was like created for a job, he was made to be a pedal tour entertainer driver person. So he ended up getting the name Captain Danny because he was the captain of these things. So anyway, we ended up buying a bike from Fredericksburg, brought it to Waco, and we thought this is going to be so awesome. Like it's similar. It was my first not escape room business, but it was structured very similarly on the way you booked it. It's 2 hours instead of 1 hour. There was a lot of similarities to it. The only thing that we didn't account for was that this thing could like break. Like it's a vehicle,
right?
And it has like golf cart batteries and stuff. And I just never thought, oh yeah, it'll run forever. Well, yeah, like a month into it, like one of the axles snapped, and we had to get a mobile welder to come out there, and so we were like trying to keep this thing on the road. And then it got like a really bad break. It was like this input shaft in the motor basically like rubbed raw, so it just wasn't catching to turn the wheels and move the bike. So that we were, it couldn't do anything. We called everybody and their mom for about a month and a half. This was in February, so we're leading up to March, like spring break. This is going to be really busy in Waco. Couldn't find anybody that could fix this thing. Nobody wanted to touch it. Nobody even really knew what they were. We called the guys in Fredericksburg, the people we bought it from, and they were like, "Oh yeah, we forgot to tell you about that. You have to kind of get this thing these input shafts kind of handmade, and they run out about every 6 months." And it's like, what? So he's like, "Sorry, we'll send you our 3D renderings that we had made on a 3D printer, so at least you can have them." It's like, okay. So he sends us these things. So they clearly knew about this, but whatever. So he sends us these, and I'm so stupid. I'm like, I told Jake, let's just put that piece in there. Like, put the 3D piece in the bike. And it, like, you just hear it crunch. Like, because it's a 3D printed model, and these things have to be like metal.
Oh yeah.
Oh, yeah. Like, the bike just, the torque on the bike ripped that thing up in a half a second. So, but we had a couple more of them. So I'm showing that to machinists, and none of them wanted to do this. And so we were getting to the end. Like, I was like, this is a failed venture. Like, this is how these things go, I guess. And so called our insurance guy, said, hey, his name's Everett. And I said, Everett, like, I don't know. We got to somehow, if we can claim anything on this, like, because this is a total loss. I don't know do I just sell it for parts? What do I do? He said, well, I got one more guy. And at this point, MJ, I had met all the guys.
Do this thing.
Like, everybody had a friend that could fix it. Everybody did.
Rick didn't.
I showed it to Rick, and Rick was even still like, oh, yeah, I think I can get to it. But, he had nowhere at Maker's Edge to even put the bike. And so it was difficult. I did go to Rick, though, with it.
Yeah, I bet.
And I think Rick, if he had like a garage because these bikes are big. I mean, they're like large.
I remember seeing them on the
they're
road.
like the size of a pickup truck. So it's like, if he had a garage to park it in, and had time to tinker, I think Rick could have come up with a solution. But at the end of the day, like, we needed like a machinist person, not like an engineer. And so he said, I got a guy. And I said, fine. Like, I will meet one last guy, and then I'm pushing this thing into the Brazos and claiming it on insurance. And so up comes this guy in this pickup truck, gets out, and he barely even introduces himself. Runs up, and I'm like, "Are you Clay?" And he's like, "Yeah. Where is it? Show me the thing." And I was like, "Okay, there's the bike." And I'm like pointing, and he's like under the, he's a big dude, and he's like under the bike, and he's like tinkering with something. And he gets out, he runs back to his truck and grabs tools, and not really even talking to me, just kind of running around like a madman. So he gets out from under the bike, and he's like, "Okay, try it. Like, hit the pedal." And I was like, "Okay." So I get it, and I hit the gas, and this thing moves. It's like moving.
Dude.
So it gets about 40 feet, breaks down again. But it moved, and I'm freaking because this thing hasn't moved in a month and a half.
He's your best friend.
And I'm like, Clay, like, what did you do? And he's like, I know how to fix it. I know how to fix it. And so we get to talking, and he's excited. And so, long story short, he could just speak the lingo to But he found a guy, he knew what to tell him, knew what he needed to make. This person did it by hand and made this input shaft. I'm blanking on his name, but I still think he might have been an angel. I don't know. I almost had his name. Anyway, he fixed the bike, and I was just like forever grateful.
Get out of it. Is he local or is he in Austin?
Local guy, yeah. Okay. Plays down here. He's in Waco. And so
we got some good people down here in Waco.
Really good guy. But so I promise this is leading into other things, MJ. So I thought everything was great, all fine and dandy. And then a week later, I get a call from Clay. He's like, "Hey, do you have time? This week I want to pitch you something." I was like, "Okay, like I'd love to be pitched. So come pitch me." So he meets and comes over and he's like, "Look, the bike's still running?" I was like, "Yeah, bike's doing great, man. Thank you." And he's like, "Good. I want to build you another one." And I was like, "Oh," like he's like, I can do it, because this bike we bought was originally manufactured in China. And so a lot of the parts, it was just hard. It was another part to make it difficult. The only other place to get these bikes were like out of Holland, but you had to be part of the franchise in order to get the bikes. And that was something that we had looked into for a minute.
Okay.
And so I knew kind of about how much they cost with like electric assist and stuff. And they're like $75,000, like to get a brand new pedal bike, all the bells and whistles and stuff. So Clay's like, "I can build it." And I was like, "Well, Clay, I don't know, I got $75,000 to buy another bike after the one that we just it broke. Now it's fixed, but like we don't need two bikes." So he's like, okay, we'll do it for like 30, like half the cost. Like I can do it. And you could just see in the look in his eye, and I was like,
he wanted it.
And I was like, well, okay, like 30, and I'm running the quick numbers in my head, like how often does this thing need to be booked, to make our money back and all this stuff. And he's like, "Hey, while you're thinking, the other caveat is I'm going to do it with high school students." And I was like, "Oh, I'm out." I was like, "No, I'm not doing it." He's like, "No, trust me. Like, they're going to learn how to weld. They're going to learn how to run electrical. They're going to do the sound, like I'm going to teach them all the things, how to put the, basic like car parts, like under the bike for the transmission and the drivetrain, all that." He's just going on. And I was like, "Clay, I don't know, man. Like adults put these things together. Now you're going to tell me high school kids are going to like weld this thing that if it falls apart on the street and someone gets hurt, like," and so I ended up saying yes because I'm crazy. And so I gave him 6 months to do it. And Clay, so kind of his story is he's a Rappaport teacher at the time.
Okay.
So he was their CEO. He was a lot of things: a teacher, CT director, all the
CT,
the career tech.
Okay.
Like welding.
Got it.
And woodworking and all the STEM classes, basically.
Yeah.
And so he said, "Yeah, I'll get 4 Rappaport students. You rent me a place. We'll build it in 6 months and all these things." And so I said, "Okay." So we just every month, or I'd go over there more than that, but just check in on them. And the students, it was this guy Sydney, Connery, Ryan, and Victor, the 4. So it was 2 seniors and 2 juniors.
Okay.
And over there with Clay, and they do it after school, and they were getting paid to do it, and just incredible. And they ended up building this thing in 6 months, and it's still running on the road today. It just Waco made kind of thing that doesn't. There was a lot of publicity around this at the time because this was 2018. It's about 6 years ago now, 5 or 6 years ago. But like, it is so cool that these bikes just aren't easy to make, and you had students in Waco, Texas, that have built one of these bikes, and it's just really cool. So
super cool. So
that gets going, and they finish it, and then Clay entered into a pitch competition, and I at the time I was an interim CEO for this startup company. It was called Startup Waco. It's a nonprofit incubator space downtown.
Okay.
And so we had done a business business plan challenge called the Big Idea Challenge. And so Clay entered, and he pitched this thing called the Green Pods, which were like these 8x8 pods that you could do like hydroponic or aquaponic.
Oh, cool.
Anyway, but within his pitch, he had this organization that was going to help build the pods, and it was called Triple Win. And so in his business plan, we're reviewing them, and he's talking about the Green Pod. There's a good section about Triple Win where, basically he will work with the 3 entities: a school district, the entrepreneur that wants to, run the Green Pod business, and then the students that are going to help construct these green pods. And he had a good flow of, they'll get credit, but they'll also get paid. The school district, this has changed since then, but there were some metrics or ways that schools could earn additional funding if students did one of three things: if they went to college, entered into the military, or earned what was called like industry-based certifications, IBCs. So they were really just trying to incentivize schools to really get your kiddos to do one of those three things. Not doing the one where you just graduate and don't do anything with your life, or don't even graduate at all.
Right.
So Clay knew that, and so he was through the building of these pods or building of a pedal bike, which I learned later. The students were earning their certifications, their welding certification or whatever. And so he was counting as funding for the schools. And so he pitches this thing, he wins the competition. The green pods never, go for it. And now my watch is talking.
I'll move it here.
Yeah.
It's going to take like 10 more seconds. Hey, we're 2:15. You got to go to 2:30.
I'm just rambling, dude.
No, I love it.
I'll say, we say 2:40.
Bro, I don't want to make you late. We can do whatever. I do want to hit on your vision for Waco, your vision for this place, and suck people in.
You suck them in. Yeah.
But keep going.
Okay. So he outlines this deal, triple win, and thought it was so cool. And so he wins, and we're friends, and so we're just talking about it, and he's like, I think this can really be like a standalone organization, I think, at some point, and I think that's kind of the deal. So yeah, the green pods still have never happened.
I love the idea of green pods, by the way.
It's really cool. It was kind of the same thing where like we had to find somebody that really wanted to like own it, you know, run the business and
an operator
really behind it. But Triple Win ended up really being the thing that kind of found legs, and Rappaport was just an amazing like partner with it and saw like the potential and had their students really involved, and was able to say, hey, we don't really have a CTE facility. Like we have, CTE classes and we have equipment that we've bought over the years, but we don't have anywhere to really put it. Rappaport's, it's over at Paul Quinn campus in East Waco. There's not tons of space over there, so space is pretty limited. So through some of the things I was doing in town with myself and a couple of my businesses, we had leased a building where we had tons of space, and so it was on Franklin, and told Clay about it. He came and looked at it, and he was like, I want to move Triple Win. Like, this is where Triple Win needs to be.
Okay.
I was like, okay, like, sure, and so that's what I ended up doing, all the tools. And there was one night I go over there, and again, I'm not really involved with Triple Win really at that point. I was just like on the outside, I was like the industry partner. So like I would say, okay, we're going to build a whatever. Or at that time, they were doing an axe trailer for Waco Axe Company. Like a mobile axe trailer. Okay. I'd go over there, and it was like, I remember I'd go to that shop to watch the pedal bike get built, and there were 4 students, right, with Clay. I go into this warehouse, there was 35 students, and there was like 6 teachers, like instructors, and they were all at different parts of the building, and people making T-shirts, and there's graphic design, like 2 kids on computers, and Clay was, they were welding this thing up, and it was wild.
I love that.
I couldn't blew my mind that, he had this vision for this program. This is all out of school time. So the students would get out of school, drive on over or take up the school bus or whatever, and they'd be there, for 4 or 5 hours leave at 8:30 kind of stuff. And really cool. And so I think that day that I was in there, probably was like late February of 2020, and so I thought this was so cool. Like, this is gonna keep going, And then 2 weeks later, everything shuts down and COVID happens.
Oh yes.
But Clay wanted to keep going, even like the schools were shut down. And I don't know if I'll get in trouble, but we kept kind of doing underground school is what we called it.
Okay.
So students would still show up and still be working.
And they still want to learn.
Yeah, and that was pretty early on. Like, I don't even know if shelter in place may had just been going or something, but masks weren't like mandated really yet.
Sure.
So students were still doing stuff because they wanted to be out.
Yeah.
And being trapped at home and doing online classes, especially in high school, it just didn't make sense. But these kids could come and get their hands dirty and work and stuff. And so, but anyway, and then we've progressed to now where we are here on Webster and 3 buildings
And
all
this is
these
a newer
tenants.
building. It's not a new building. It's new for you guys.
New for us, yeah. It's old
Yeah.
building, been here a
Yes,
long
that's what I
time.
meant.
Used to be Cory, Greg Cory's family. They did Cory cabinets. They were cabinet makers.
Okay.
So that was what this was forever.
Okay.
You'll get every once in a while there'll be people that walk in looking for a cabinet to be made, and I'm like, I'm so sorry, like, my name is Cory, but different spelling. This is a little different what we do now. Still a lot of woodworking, and there are cabinets made, but not Greg Cory's cabinets. So
Okay.
but yeah, we've been here now since 2020. We moved over in May, so kind of during the pandemic, we moved from that building on Franklin to this building, and then kind of kept taking over more space, and here we are.
Here we are. And so we got a lot of Rappaport kids
Yeah.
served here. Like, what's your vision for it, and how do you see this growing? Where are we going?
Where are we going? So I think where we're going is kind of where we've been. In some ways, but I think there's ways to scale and enhance. But so Rappaport is like our main partner. We work with Raps throughout the whole school year. The students are over here every day from 1 to 2:30, give or take, and it's mainly the practicum students. So these are like seniors, maybe some juniors, but mostly seniors. And there's about 30 that come over here every day, and they're working on different, media, merchandise, entrepreneurship, engineering, things like that.
And that's Dustin and Natalie that are
so Mrs. Ward, Natalie, Mrs. Ward, she does the art, like graphic design, merchandise entrepreneurship is what she's doing. And then you have the engineering class, that's Fernanda, and Miss Ainsworth, and then Jason Stahl, he's the media teacher.
Okay, cool.
And then Mr. Ward is kind of oversees a lot of the teachers and the students and stuff like that. So, but yeah, that's cool. In the summertime, it gets really cool because that's where we partner with different school districts as well. So, Waco High or Waco ISD, La Vega, Conley.
Oh, wow.
In the past, we've worked with Lorena, obviously Rappaport University. And so we get the ability to go to those schools, recruit students, mainly juniors and seniors, for the easiest way is to call them internships. They're a little bit more than that sometimes, but the students will work during the summer. They get paid, and they can either be welding or marketing or CAD design or CAD. Entrepreneurship is a big one. So
how old do you have to be to participate?
We say 16 is like the good age. It allows, just the way credits work too. 16 is, and they can drive, and they don't have to drive, but we've done it with freshmen. We've had sophomores, and a lot of times they aren't. They're good. They're obviously moldable, and they want to learn. But if they're working on a project, like they're welding something, they tend to take a little bit more time to kind of get up to speed at where we're trying to get to. Sure. Especially if like we're working with an entrepreneur that needs a food truck built.
Got it.
They're paying their money to have this thing made, and if you're having to redo a lot, which you do anyway, but we've just learned trial and error over the years.
That makes sense.
We've trimmed down the freshmen and sophomores and tried to focus more on the juniors and seniors.
Is Rappaport public school?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay, and then all the others you mentioned were public school.
They're all public. Yeah, Rappaport's a public charter school, so it gets sometimes a little confused. I think some people think it's a private school, and it's not. You apply to attend Rappaport, but it's free to attend. They just you just have to go through an application process. But yeah, it's a public charter school.
Do you ever have anyone from private schools or homeschool networks coming in, or
not really? We've done some with homeschoolers.
Okay.
Mainly through we have a tenant over here, John Bernard runs a nonprofit called Middleman Ministries.
Okay.
And Middleman does two things. They do like outreach at like skate parks and stuff.
I've heard of this.
Go do skateboard, and they'll talk to kiddos and stuff. But then they also repair cars and learn like how to work on an engine and stuff. And so they've had some of our students go over there. They've had homeschoolers. So that's how the homeschool community has been kind of involved. But in reality, we could offer classes to homeschool. We just you have to kind of it's more specific, like kind of one-on-one with families. And there are some co-ops and things, but it's a little bit more time intensive than, you go to Waco ISD and you talk to 2 people and then you
it's done.
have access to a lot
That
of
makes
kids,
sense.
So, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So it's been a good ride.
Where are you looking to expand to? Is it more schools? Is it more programs? Is it more tenants?
Yeah, those are all good questions. The tenants was always kind of the first domino that had to fall.
Okay.
We had the space. We, at least with myself, I'm not an educator by trade. I don't have a teaching certification. I never, like, that wasn't the pathway I've gone down. And so for me, I like to treat this, it's a business, right? I mean, that's like the best way for me to like approach it, like anything that this kind of deals that I'm involved in. So getting tenants involved, other local entrepreneurs is just like embedded in me. So that was the easiest thing for me to do to start off. Clay he came from the education side. So Clay knew, how school budgets worked and politics and all that stuff that play a role into these things. But that was never my role. And so Clay ended up, he was at Rappaport for 15 years and then ended up taking another job last year. So this was like our first year without Clay.
Oh, he left Waco?
He did. He's still in Waco. Just works for another company here in town. And so, when that happened, we hired another guy. His name's Cash Teague, and he's our CT director at Rappaport. So that's helped fill like that side of it. But for me, we're like, let's lean a little bit more into the tenant side, to the makerspace side, because I know I can do that really well. And then let's kind of figure out where we're going again with the education piece and working with other school districts and stuff like that. So yeah, finding tenants was important. I think the next stage, at least locally, is continuing to like enhance what we're doing, working with other schools and stuff like that. It is interesting to look at this model. It probably could be duplicated in another city. There's not much like Triple Win. There's a lot of schools that have robust CTE departments. You go to Midway and here in Waco, or in Hewitt, Woodway, and it's like, they've thrown millions at that. You're like, I would say, the things that I could do if you gave me millions, we'd be flying. So the school districts themselves do good jobs of kind of what we do, but nothing of like the degree I think that we've gone with it. Okay. And so I mean, could this be in Austin, Texas, and working with school districts down there? I mean, it could. Very well could. You kind of, I think we know the ingredients to put into the pot. You just got to have a good sous chef and a good chef, and so.
Well, cool, man.
Yeah.
You want to hit on anything else? We're right at 29 right now.
I don't know. Was there anything else that you had on your mind?
I want to get more people. If you need more tenants, let's talk about that. I think you just have one spot here, though.
Yeah, I mean, really, we want to get more. It. Yeah, we need more makers. I mean, having people come in that want memberships. We've been
talk about that a little bit. Like, how does that work, and how would people get involved in that?
So we've been pretty hesitant about opening up to the public. We've been here since 2020. We've done a lot with students, and our space has grown. So it wasn't like what it is today. It didn't look like that 4 years ago. But in in September of this year, or of 2023. We were like, okay, I think we have a good team. It's we have a guy named Mikey, and then Rachel, myself, and Mikey used to run a makerspace up at UNT up in Dallas. He was in school up there. So Mikey is very knowledgeable, and having him on board is like an imperative to the makerspace side. And so our tenants, we have a really good community of tenants, and we're pretty much we have one spot left. That one lady, Gina, if you're listening or watching this, I'm still holding it for you. So we could be full there, but really just getting more makers in that want memberships. So monthly memberships, we do day passes. We were pretty, we wanted, Maker's Edge does a great job, and we had a beautiful space on Austin Avenue. Yeah. And so we never wanted to, we're like, Maker's Edge does a good job of that. I'm not trying to be a public makerspace, and then when just stuff with Rick and Maker's Edge was shifting a little bit, the community still needs access to a makerspace, and so I mean, we're still learning. We're not as seasoned pros yet, but we definitely have cool tools, and
Yeah.
We're very flexible and workable. We have good hours, here that you can come and, learn a tool, or if you already know how to use one, then great. And you come make anything your heart desires.
What's the best way to get makers or aspiring makers like in the door as monthly customers? Is it like running them through a project and then or what have you seen?
That's a good question. I probably don't even know the full answer to that yet. I think what we've seen so far is the person that has a project in mind and says, "Hey, I need a spot for 2 months while I'm doing this," and so they come in, they finish their project, and then they
stay on.
Well, I was gonna say they cancel. Well, I'd love if they stay on, but sometimes they say, "Hey, then if I have another project, I'll come back." Now, if you have somebody that's kind of like ongoing, maybe there's one thing they want to keep always making, or they just like the community aspect of it is a big part. Could you go buy some of these tools and put them in your house? You could.
Your garage fills up real quick.
Your garage fills
That's
up
what I did.
real quick, and some of this stuff isn't cheap. So, but if you are able to do that, it's like sometimes they still like come in because they can talk to other people. It's like you could go buy a treadmill and put it at home, or you can buy a gym membership, and it's like, but there's just a community of people, and so I think that's what we're seeing as kind of a big aspect of it. We're doing summer camps coming up here, starting in May.
Is that like project oriented?
They're more like class oriented, so there won't be like a specific project per camp, but they're weekly. So every week there's a new camp, or it could be the same camp but done 9 different weeks. So we'll start doing a lot of promotion of that on that degree, and I think through that, we'll start to. We haven't advertised. We've just wanted to figure out the nuts and bolts of this stuff first, and so. But word's getting out, and that's a good thing, and it's forcing us to, put in policies and, check-ins and stuff that every makerspace should have that we're just kind of catching up to. So,
wow.
Yeah.
Cory, thank you so much, man.
Dude,
this is awesome.
This is great, man.
Yeah. And you got a lot of stuff. We didn't even touch on so many of your businesses.
Yeah. We can do part 2. Yeah.
Part 2 maybe to come, but
I love it. Well,
thanks so much, man.
Thank you, MJ. I appreciate it.